Hey, how's it going everybody? It's Zuko, and today we're going to be doing the pre-order roundup for September. We got a lot of anime figures announced this month, and hopefully you'll find something you're interested in. But before we get started, I have two quick things I want to say. One, we are very close to getting to our sub goal, and because of that, I figured now would be the best time to try out a question and answer video. I've never done one of these before. Truthfully, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but if you've ever felt like asking me a question about the hobby, or myself, or the channel, now would be the best time to do so. So, if you'd like to submit a question, leave me a comment in this video. I'll read through them all, I'll pick the best ones. If there's not many, I'll do them all, but I have no idea how many submissions I'm going to get, so just in case, I'm covering my tracks. Now, the other thing, really quick, I just want to thank you guys for the feedback on the webcam. I'm going to keep using it for now. It seems fine. I made today's background blue, so hopefully that looks good. But yeah, I just don't really feel like buying a new webcam when I'd rather spend that money on my mirrorless camera and just improve that, because I feel like that's more important. But anyway, let's begin. Alright, so to start us off, we're going to be talking about Kadokawa, because they had about 7 figures this month, which is quite a lot. I think that's more than usual, I'm pretty sure. But their first figure is Kanade Tachibana wedding version. Now, this is a 1/7 scale at 30,000 yen. Which I don't think is an outrageous price for a wedding dress figure. Unfortunately, I don't feel like this is doing anything particularly interesting with the concept, except for the fact that because she has wings, it makes this wedding dress figure a little bit more angelic, right? And the airbrushing, like that light blue on the wings and even the translucencies on the tips, actually do come together to make some nice wing sculpts. So I do think that part of the figure is great. And the dress is nice, but I can't tell for sure if it's like pearlescent paint or if it's just glossy. But it's a nice one, right? It's pleasant, it's cute, she's got the bouquet, that looks nicely sculpted. I like the base just being like red carpet. I just think it really pops considering how most of the figure is light in its color palette. One thing though that this figure has that's a bit of a gimmick is that you can take off the dress and then you have this like mini skirt setup. Now, I'm not gonna say it looks bad, but I do think if you're going to be spending 30,000 yen on a wedding dress figure, then this kind of defeats the entire purpose of it. It still does look like a wedding style figure, but I don't know, it just kind of feels like a waste to me to spend all that money. Like, you can't buy this separately. That would have been a great option. But I'm always, I don't know, kind of particular to having the entire thing set up instead of stripping it down to its like most basic parts, right? But with this setup, you do get to see her legs and the heels, which have this like nice silver paint to them. I'm surprised the rest of her outfit doesn't have that like silver paint, because I do think it looks good on her. But yeah, it's a little bit too scantily, I guess. I don't know. I don't really dig the look. I think the, standard wedding dress is more appropriate for her. But yeah, not bad. Just a little pricey, but most wedding dress figures are. Alright, next up is Yunyun Gothic Lolita Dress version. This one's going to cost you 22,550 yen, which I feel like is just pushing it a little bit for a basic figure like this, but I think there's enough detail in her outfit where I don't feel offended, right? I like her embarrassed face, I think she looks cute, I like the multicolored nails, and this figure certainly highlights her curvature. It's a bit sexy in its approach, the absolute territory down here. Pretty good, and she's got a pretty large bust too. There's really not too much to say about this one. If you like the design of it, I feel like you're probably gonna get a nice figure. I don't know if her figure's been ever, just because I don't really collect anything for Konosuba. Maybe I should start, but as it stands right now, I'm pretty inexperienced with this series as a whole. Next up, though, we had the Hatsune Miku Maneki Miku version. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Kadokawa makes Miku figures. This might be their first, which is fun to think about because it's just another company trying to do something different with the character. And I would say this is pretty damn different. This is a very adorable looking Miku figure. They're really leaning into the fortune and the cat aspects of this whole design, right? Now, unfortunately, she's really expensive. This one's going to cost you 33,000 yen essentially, and she's a 1/7 scale, so it's not like she's super big or anything. This is part of the Katie Cole line, which I'm pretty sure promises like higher quality. I think that's the point of the Katie Cole line. I'm not exactly sure since I don't know if I own any of them. But either way, premium price point. I think that's going to keep some people away from this figure, unfortunately, just because there's so much competition when it comes to Miku. And I think this one isn't going to like wow people unless they're really into this concept. But I do like how committed they are to it. Like every single little area of this figure is either like cat or like Japanese fortune, right? You have like the pose that she's doing, the cat ears. I'm pretty sure she has a tail. The bells, like that shrine rope, I forget what those are called, I'm sorry. She even has like the plaques in her hair, which I think is fun. The pattern on like the green portion of her skirt is like absolutely precious. That shit is cute. And I love the suitcase, how like coins are literally bursting out of it and she has a golden leak. It's really fun. And there's also these like kitty paw pads like everywhere on the figure. It's adorable. It really is. I think they could have done a better job with the hair. My guess, it's like probably going to look a little cheap because it seems to be mostly translucent plastic, like semi-translucent. It's not going to have that nice matte finish. It doesn't really seem like it has much shading to it. So that's probably going to look cheap when it's done. But everything else looks great. I do like it a lot conceptually, but you know, this is not like my first pick or my second pick or my third when it comes to Miku figures, because I could use a new one. I haven't bought a Miku figure in years, so I'm long overdue. Unfortunately, this one's kind of pushing it on price, though. Mikoto Misaka Hoodie Look Gekota version. I love frogs. This is such a great figure. If I've seen Railgun, I might have been tempted to buy this, but conceptually, love it. Now, this one is going to cost you 21,450 yen, which, I mean, when you think about it, the hoodie or the poncho, I think they call it a poncho. Would you call this a poncho? I don't know. Doesn't really matter. But either way, I feel like at a glance that might be a little bit too much money, but this does have a lot of optional parts, which you might be surprised to find out. Now, if you don't like the hood, which I think you're crazy if you don't, because that's like the best part of this figure, you could strip her down and get her to her bra and panties with the green shim upon, but then she could like hug the plushie, her arms change completely, and she has like a gentle, like cute smile instead. So you do get a lot of parts, but I feel like you gotta have the hoodie, man. The hoodie's like what makes this figure unique, but it's nice that you get options, and I do think it makes the price point pretty good, you know? I love this like really cutesy frog look that they went for. It almost reminds me of like GameCube Animal Crossing. I don't know if I'm thinking of this incorrectly, but like the I don't know why I'm thinking of this. Like when you put in the song for like your town, I'm pretty sure the notes were frogs. I hope I'm not wrong on that. I haven't played Animal Crossing in a while, but I love that game, so I'm pretty sure I'm right. But either way, I do think this one looks nice, and I don't think the price point is too bad either. In fact, I think it's kind of good. All right, next up is Ilya, the summer dress version. This is another Katie Cole figure, though I don't particularly see why. This one doesn't really stand out to me, but she does cost 22,500 yen, which I feel like is a little bit too much. I'm not really impressed with this figure in any particular way. I think it looks kind of basic, which is fine. But if the price is this high, then I do expect a little bit more. You know, you're not really supposed to do much with like a white summer dress. Like, I get the concept, and the sunflower in her hand is a really nice touch, and I think her smile's cute, but I don't know, I'm just not really in love with the outfit. I think it's the translucencies on the extra layers here and by her shoulders. I don't know, I think it just makes it look a little bit cheap. I could see this one definitely dropping a price down the line. But hey, convince me otherwise. Maybe you guys see something in this that I don't. One that did impress me, though, was their Chevy figure from No Game, No Life. And I don't even mean that in terms of like the sculpt, which is phenomenal, but more so the price. That was probably the most shocking part. This figure is going to cost you 30,000 yen. How the fuck does that work? Like, that doesn't make any sense. This is cheaper than the Miku. And it's like the same price or a little bit less than the wedding dress figure for Kanade. I don't understand. Maybe I'm like overselling like all of these like wires plugging into her, but you also get this like giant machine wall that's like working on her. There's also like tons of mechanical detail all throughout the figure. Like, how does it only cost 30,000 yen? Now, on closer inspection, I do think some of the paint looks a little bit rough. I'm gonna try and find some of the images that really highlight that the most. Like this one right here, it's not as like sleek as I would have thought. Almost looks like it was hand brushed, which I doubt is the case, but hey, maybe it is. Not exactly sure. So it might not be as nice of a paint job as I'm expecting, but from like the normal viewing, like distance, it looks fantastic. Any figure that has like any type of like futuristic detail like this, and again, like this chaotic mess of wires is just so like visually appealing to me. It's very, very chaotic. Also, you get this bonus faceplate in case you don't like the other one where she's, I guess, essentially asleep or shut down, and then this one where she's waking up. So I do like that you get that option as well. But yeah, I do think this is a standout for sure. Just like, honestly, for the company as a whole, by like sculpt and price, I don't know why this is as cheap as it is, considering how much is going on. I don't even think it's like a license thing, because there are plenty of No Game No Life figures that are pretty expensive, but like even this one picture, like you can't even discern everything in it like from a quick glance because of all of her hair and all the wires and this like huge clump of wires back here. It's crazy. Her wings, her giant like gun, it's cool. It's a cool ass figure. Might not have like the supreme paint job you might be looking for. We'll see in the future when she actually comes out. But yeah, pretty damn impressed with this one. And last up for Kadokawa was Ruby from Oshi no Ko. Now this is the second figure in the line. I was previously put up a couple of months back, and Kana is coming eventually. She's going to cost 21,780 yen, which I believe is the same price as or it should be. And I think it looks good. It looks of a similar quality. I will admit, as much as I enjoyed my time with the anime, I actually don't like this outfit that much. I don't know. I hope they have other outfits down the line. This one doesn't particularly do anything for me, but it doesn't look bad on her by any means. I do like the style of the show, having like the stars in their eyes, so like the decals for their eyes look great. I also like that she has fangs, which we'll see in this image. I just like that. The double fangs. So yeah, you know, as somebody who likes collecting idol figures every now and then, this one, I feel like you can get a better idol girl figure, like from Idol Master or Love Live, for around the same price or a little bit more, and then they bargain bin anyway. I don't know if this one will, because she's from something that's extremely popular right now. But I also don't know if Ruby has other figures like on the horizon. There's like versions of her when she's younger, but I don't know how many where she's like on stage singing are currently in development. So I guess keep your eyes out on this one if you like her, or you know, it's not too expensive, you can just pre-order it. I think it should be easy enough to order when she comes out. From S-Fire, we're getting Jujutsu Kaisen's Yuji Itatori, a 1/7 scale for 24,750 yen. Which in this case I feel like is okay. Sometimes this company's pricing is a little bit too much for me. Like that Denji figure where he's holding the chainsaw with Pochita is like really close in price to this, yet there's so much more going on here, or at least to me. So I think this is okay. Now, unfortunately, I don't love his face. I think a couple of his figures so far have not really looked like him, or at least what I think of him looking like from the anime. So I don't love that. But everything else looks good, in my opinion. I love how dynamic this one is, how he's like running kind of like on a 45-degree angle on the wall while he's dodging the attacks, these like cool energy effects that kind of look like blood. You even have this like little smoke cloud back here. And I think they did the shading on his outfit, specifically the blue portions, really damn well. Almost has like a little bit of a shine to it, which I'm not sure if that's like super accurate, if it should be more matte, but it does make the figure pop. This is an instance of S-Fire pulling an idea like straight from the series, because it says right here, the intense moment in which hero Yuji dodges SO's fierce attacks is recreated with dynamic posing, vivid expression, and boldly sculpted special effects. So yeah, I love that idea. I love how they keep doing that. Later on in the video, we're going to see another Yuji figure where it kind of has the same problem, but it's also going to cost way more money. So look forward to that. Alright, Hatsune Miku Blue Archive version. This is a Max Factory figure actually, and is going to cost you 26,000 yen. Which, just like the Maneki Miku version, I feel like is a little bit too much. Not the most expensive, but considering, again, a lot of competition, and it's not like super extravagant or anything, or super dynamic, I could see some people, myself included, feeling like this is a little bit too much. That being said, absolutely adorable. I think this is cute as shit. I love this like sailor outfit and pop idol girl design that's going on. I think it fits her perfectly. Her legs look great on this figure, and her twin tails are kind of interesting because they like slapped on these like triangles throughout the figure. That might be a Blue Archive thing. I think it is, but I have not played Blue Archive, but you could see it as the figure goes around, even some like darker triangles back here, which you're never gonna see. But it's not like the most elaborate twin tail sculpt for Miku, which is again probably gonna make some people feel like they're not getting as much for how much they're asking. For the longest time, I had no idea what her weapon was supposed to be, but it's actually a t-shirt cannon, which I think is very fun. I kind of like the fact that they didn't just give her a fucking rocket launcher or something. They made it a bit more cutesy, and I think it fits the whole vibe of the figure. I also love the scrunchies that are on her wrists and on her ankles. I think that's a cute touch. And I also like the placement of her halo. I'm pretty sure the design of it is just like these bars over here, like the, you know, audio equalizers. It almost looks like a little crown in a way, but it's, you know, attached to her twin tail by the ribbon. If it was like a little bit less, I would probably consider it just because, I don't know, I guess I'm starting to really like Blue Archive designs, but, yeah, I don't know. I don't really feel like I need this as much as I do adore the design of it. It's a shame. Next up is Nice Nature from Uma Musume, a 1/7 scale that's unfortunately going to cost you 27,800 yen. Might be the worst price figure so far, if you ask me, but it is justified a little bit because she does come with some optional parts. If you don't like this expression and this pose, you could change it, where she has her hands by her chest, her ears are drooping down, and she's a little bit shy. It is very cute. I also really love her twin tails, how like fluffy her hair looks, and just the color palette in general is really pleasing to me. But man, this is a really, really expensive like horse girl when it doesn't need to be. Like, they're not even doing anything special with the base, and we're gonna see later that there is a much better priced Uma Musume girl on the horizon, which I think will probably turn out better, but I do love her design. She looks super cute, and I do like the optional parts. I just feel like maybe like 24,000 with the optional parts would have been better, but I think all of these horse girls tend to be on the pricier side for whatever reason. Laplace Darkness from Hololive. Now this one is made by Good Smile Company, and what that means is that they actually kept the price down. She's only going to cost 23,000 yen, and unlike a lot of other Hololive girls, she's actually a standard release. So I'm pretty sure I've seen her for like 20,000, 19,000, around that area. Really damn affordable considering that she's also a 1/6 scale. And while I wish they kept all of them in the 1/7 scale, at least now there's multiple 1/6 scales, so she can fit nice and snugly with Lammy if you buy her as well. I like how you can take off her cowlick and place the little bird on her head. I think that's a cute touch. You know, speaking of head, her dome looks massive. I feel like that's gonna really look funny if you place it with figures that aren't in this scale. I think that's like the one downside I could see, but that might not even be a downside to you. It's really like a nitpick, if anything. I don't think that's a big concern at all, but I do think her head looks massive, at least compared to the rest of her body. But maybe that's just because like a lot of her outfit like barely fits her as well. Like the sleeves are, you know, hanging off, probably because they're so heavy as well, because they're like cuffs. It's an interesting design for sure. Some chains, some belts, like her gigantic voluminous hair. Yeah, I think this is like one of the best price Hololive figures we've seen so far, outside of obviously the Pop-Up Parade line. But for 1/6 scale, like some stores having it for under 20,000 yen, kind of like a no-brainer if you like her or you just buy Hololive figures. Reimu Hakure, Wonderful Shrine Maiden of Paradise version from Solar Rain. You know I love me a Toho figure. I kind of love this one too, but I don't need more Reimu figures right now. I kind of want some other characters. But if you don't have a Reimu figure, this is definitely one of the better ones I've seen, with the only downside to me, personally, I don't love her face. Now, that is completely up to interpretation of the individual, because a lot of Toho figures don't look the same. Most of them do not copy the art style of the game, for good reason, I guess. But yeah, they're always very different, so it's just a matter of preference. Love this figure by design. The fact that she's standing on the sinking torii gates, the lantern down there, the talisman is just kind of like falling all over her. There's like 10 like all over her body, some like strapped around her waist. It's a really cool setup. The little ripples of the waves down here. I almost wish there was more water on the bottom of the base, like they made it bigger and had more sinking in, like the street signs from the original illustration. I think that would have been a good idea, but it's okay. The flow of her dress looks great, just like that subtle peak on her thighs right there is really nice from the front. I'm sure you get a better look from the sides, but the front view is what's important, right? And I like that the outfit didn't deviate too far. It just made like slight changes, like the patterns on the bottom portion of the dress. Typically, she doesn't have like a fox mask, so that's also different. But yeah, I do think it's a standout for sure, but it's a little pricey. And right now, I would rather get a different character altogether. But if you don't have any Reimus, this could be one to get, or at least keep your eyes out on. Now this one was a nice surprise, not because I play Arknights, but just because of how good the figure looks. From Good Smile Arts Shanghai, we're getting Surtur. I don't know if I said that right. I know she's gotten other figures in the past. I think there's that one where she's like sitting on this like giant stone hand with like lava around it. But it's a good price, 21,200 yen for a rather elaborate looking figure. Love her outfit. I almost want to buy this figure just for like the fashion. I just love the mini skirt. It's a little bit punk. I think it fits her perfectly. Honestly, if she didn't come with the rest of the figure, like the base itself, I still think this would be a nice figure of her, but she does, and that really does kind of like complete it all, right? Because there's a lot going on. You got this like big gate behind her where she's like leaning against it, the sword's leaning against it, her hair is draping down her shoulders and then onto the little railing, which is a really nice touch. It's all like scratched up and dirty. Got these paint buckets down here. There's some like graffiti on the bottom of the base, which is also pretty damn cool. The skateboard is awesome. Honestly, I think more figures should come with skateboards. I think they're pretty fucking cool. And then I don't know what's in the box. Looks like some pipes or some posters. I'm gonna guess pipes because it's like a construction area. That would make more sense. But yeah, man. Very stylish looking figure. Love the design, love the fashion, love the colors. Kind of does everything except for the fact that I don't play Arknights. I expect this one to be pretty damn popular. I'll keep my eyes out on it. If I really go down a rabbit hole, maybe I'll end up with it. But I'm trying to be a good boy. I'm trying not to pre-order too many figures from series I don't really pay attention to. And I already jumped on Blue Archive, so I don't think I should do this. But I do think it's like a 10 out of 10 design-wise. So maybe I'm stupid if I skip this one. So don't be stupid like me and get it if you like it. So Freeing didn't really have that many figures this month, just about 3, which is a pretty low output for them, but honestly, I think they could use a break. They make way too many usually. Now, starting us off is Murin from Reincarnated as a Slime. Nothing super unique about this one. Nice that this character is getting a figure like this, but the suit is very standard. I think the one standout for me would just be the colors. I like this color combination of the suit and her hair, this like light blue lavender. I might be colorblind. I don't know exactly how to define this one, but I do like it. I just think it's a really pleasant looking figure. Gonna cost you 38,500 yen, which is pretty expensive, but I wanted to point that out. And I want to jump ahead a little bit because this Shuna bunny figure actually went up in October. So I'm jumping forward slightly, but the reason I'm bringing this up is because she is just about 30,000. That's a pretty big difference in price. She is shorter, but like not that much shorter, you know, like not 8,000 yen shorter. And she has like little oni horns. So I don't understand. Are they actually like changing the prices to reflect what they're putting out? Are they just becoming more reasonable with their prices? I don't know. But anyway, while I'm here, cutes. I like the white suit on her just because she typically wears a Shrine Maiden outfit. I do wish there was like a little bit of red mixed into there, maybe even on like the bands on her arms, but other than that, I do think it's a nice looking one. Now, next we have some dragon-made bunnies. You probably know which two are coming up. First one is Lukoa, a 1/4 scale for 38,500 yen. So the same price, right? This one I feel like is more acceptable, I suppose, just because her hair is very long. She's got those very colorful gradients. Her face is cute. I like the wink, good expression for her. The heart that she's making with her hands, I think makes for a great pose. And she's a pretty tall bunny too. I'm pretty sure she's the tallest of the 3 dragon-made bunnies so far. But to get to that point, we have Kana up next. Now, we're not going to talk about controversies this time. We all remember the shit show. We don't need to go through it again. We really don't. This one is going to cost 33,000 yen, which is nice that they lowered the price, but I'm kind of surprised she's not as cheap as Shuna. Maybe it's because she has horns and the beads in her twin tails. Not exactly sure, but at least they're making some consideration for us, right? I think the one thing I never mentioned about Kana is that they made her leggings like a tan, like a brown, which I don't think I've ever really seen Freeing do. I can't recall off of the top of my head seeing these types of fishnets on any of their bunnies. Controversies aside, I'm assuming all 3 of these are going to sell well, and maybe they'll continue making more characters. Who knows? But these are the only 3 announced so far. Now, I do have one more figure in this section, and I saved it for now because this Roxy is a 1/3 scale, which is gigantic, right? I don't think I've ever seen Fat Company make a 1/3 scale figure. Again, could be wrong. But also, this is 30,000 yen. Now, I think that's kind of under what a lot of people expected, but at the same time, it makes total sense. Like, her bikini's not really covering anything. It's very small, and all they really have to sculpt is the body, the hair, and the face, right? There's really nothing too complex about this figure. You probably know if you want this one or not, and if you do, hey, it's actually pretty damn affordable considering it's gigantic. And also, for a gigantic figure, they're giving her a sandy base, which, you know, sometimes you just get the disc, especially with Freeing, so I do think that's a nice touch. But we're gonna move on now to pop-up parades. Not too many this time around, about 8 or 9, so this should be pretty quick. Now, if you were worried that Fu from Samurai Champloo was not going to be getting a figure because she was left out last time, well, you're in luck, because she is. Same size as the other 2, large, which is great. My preference for these pop-up parades, 8,800 yen, which I think is a perfect price, right? And she looks good, very cute. It's a nice little nostalgia trip back to the, mid-2000s when Samurai Champloo was airing. Some good times. Now, next up, we have Morrigan and Lilith from Darkstalkers. And I love Darkstalkers, but I really don't like these 2. You know what, I guess I'll give Morrigan a little bit of credit. I don't think this looks that bad, but I am very picky when it comes to Darkstalkers figures. And I do feel like there's an attempt with this Morrigan figure to look like the classic style, and I like her pose a lot. But with Lilith, I kind of just hate it. I think there are better Lilith figures on the market. And while this was never going to be the best one, I just don't see her at all. I think the face looks completely wrong. And the pose is fine, right? But I don't know. I feel like they missed a bit with this one. Not my favorite, and that's a shame, because I honestly want more Darkstalkers figures, yet I'm so damn picky, because nothing ever appeals to me. Nicholas D. Wolfwood from Trigun Stampede is getting a pop-up parade. There is one for Vash already, and Kotobukiya is making a really nice Vash figure as well. I don't know if they've announced a Wolfwood just yet, so this might be your only option. It'll probably happen eventually, but either way, I think this is fine. I just don't love his hair. Usually I don't nitpick these pop-up parades too much, but I feel like it looks a little bit too rough, both in the paint and the sculpt. I just don't like it that much, but everything else is pretty cool. Here we have the Hatsune Miku Future Eve version large size. Now we have a couple of figures of this design already, one from Design Coco and a Nendoroid, I'm pretty sure, but this one is very stylized. It looks completely different from the other 2, and I think it's a bit more up my alley. The art style kind of reminds me of Studio Trigger. I really like what they did here, like specifically with her eyes, and even like the path that her hair is taking. It looks almost like liquid. It's very interesting. Now, we mentioned this last time, but there is a bit of an issue with this figure. You can already see it, right? She has 2 big acrylic stands keeping her hair up, helping them from drooping over time. It's definitely necessary, but it's not the greatest to look at, right? I think a lot of people are going to be upset when they look at this on their shelf and it's a bit cluttered, right? But there is like a sorta solution to this, which I didn't mention. How you could probably very easily like place a figure on each side if it's the right size, right? And then they kind of just like hide the stands. It's definitely something to think about at the very least. Like, it's not a solution, more like a band-aid. You're just not really like thinking about it anymore. But yeah, there's ways to like work around it. I will say though, I don't love the fact that there's these 2 big seam lines in her hair, like right front and center. Other than that, I think this is a really cute one for a really great price. You just have to get around this one issue, and if you don't have the issue with it, if you don't mind how it looks, then it's pretty good. A bit of a nice surprise with these next 2. We're getting Legoshi as well as Lewis from Beastars. Now, both of them do have figures by Mega House, and I believe most people do enjoy those figures. I don't think they have any major problems, but it's nice to get some simple yet clean looking figures of the 2. I believe both of them are based off of the manga's cover art. I can tell for sure that Legoshi's is, but since I've never read the manga, I'm making a guess on Lewis. But either way, I do think they look good, and they're $40, and I like them. And hey, maybe they'll make Haru, maybe they'll make Juno. I don't know, you gotta buy these 2, and then they'll probably make some more. Suna from Hitman Reborn. I have not thought about this series in a very long time. He actually comes with flame effects. I don't think many pop-up parades have stuff like this, and they seem to have done them very well. Like, I do not have any complaints about the sculpt of this figure. In fact, I think it looks pretty good. The only thing I would want is if they gave you like a mini figure of Reborn to place on the bottom of the base. That would make it perfect. You wouldn't even need a scale at that point, unless you want something bigger. But yeah, I think this looks really nice for what it is. And then last up for the pop-up parades was Hitori from Bocchi the Rock. A bit of a surprise announcement. I don't think this one had a prototype, like, ever. So they just put it up one day to everybody's surprise. And I like it a lot. Now, I already pre-ordered the Good Small Company figure. I bought the Nendoroid. I have to open that on the channel at some point. And then I pre-ordered some, like, goofier figures that I hope to get one day. I don't know when that'll happen because I bought it from Right Stuff, and now Right Stuff is going to disappear and turn into Crunchyroll. That shit's gonna be a mess. I don't know what happens to pre-orders at that point, but that's a story for another day. But the point is, I don't need more of Hitori. I'd rather get other characters from the series. I don't know, I do like that dinosaur one as well. But whatever. This looks great. I love that you get 2 faceplates with this one. One that's a bit more cartoony, and I guess he's very accepting that she's going to heaven. And then you have one where she's, looks like she's more like actually praying because she's concerned about something. Honestly, I think this is how you do it if you're going to make pop-up parades for characters that are definitely going to be getting scale figures anyway. Do something that the scales aren't going to do, right? Like, because no scale is going to look like this. This is where you kind of branch out. This is where you experiment a little bit. You have fun with it. So I like that they're going down this direction with Hitori. But that's gonna do it for the pop-up parades. Let's jump over to AmiAmi now. Alright, so let's start off with a couple of quick ones. Kotobukiya announced like 6 or 7 re-releases this month, so if you missed out on any of these, now's your best opportunity to pick them up. Starting us off is City Hunters Ryo Saiba. This one's going to cost you 11,000 yen, which is pretty damn affordable. No idea how expensive this guy used to be, but City Hunter is considered a bit of a classic. It's been around for a very long time, so I would not be surprised if it was pretty expensive at one point. Next up is Altria Pendragon Alter in her casual wear, as well as Joan of Arc Alter in her casual wear. Now, I'm not exactly sure why there's a big price difference between the two of about 3,000 yen. I do think Joan of Arc looks a little bit nicer. I just like this figure more. Actually, nicer isn't really the best word. I just like the design of the figure more. They're both very similar, and I think they both look great. So I think it's a no-brainer if you like the design of these two figures. We're also getting their original Shingeki figures, so we got Mikasa here, but there's also Levi as well as Eren. These are the renewal package versions, so they're just gonna change the box up a little bit. I don't think it matters too much, but it might to you, so keep that in mind. All three of these are going to cost 14,000 yen each, which I think is a pretty attractive price. They're very dynamic, pretty elaborate looking figures. I think these all still hold up fantastically. I guess I'll admit, I don't think Mikasa's face looks that great on this figure, but the other two I do think are very solid, and especially if you're just getting into the hobby. I think if you want to like jump into scales and you like Shingeki, since most people do, though I feel like the reputation is going down a little bit ever since they dragged out the final season as much as they did. But either way, right, I think this is a great jumping in point if you want something a bit more like of a spectacle on your shelf, if you don't collect. I don't know who I'm even speaking to at this point, but I'm just putting that out there. I'm not sure if I mentioned this one last time. I honestly don't even remember when they put this one up, but just in case I didn't, Dawn and Piplup are getting re-released. There is also the Dawn and Turchwig figure where she's in the platinum design with the winter coat, which personally I like a little bit more, but if you like this design more, or you're like Piplup a little bit more, now you can get this one for 11,000 yen. And this one was a figure that was like $200 to $300 on the aftermarket. So, you know, this is definitely going to help that price go down tremendously, at least for a little bit. So don't miss out. The price is very low, so I don't really feel like you need to play the waiting game. And even if it lasts for a little bit, usually these Pokemon figures don't bin. They just kind of like stick around for a while, and then people just realize, oh shit, I like this, and then they can't get it anymore for a good price. And then last up for the re-releases, we're getting Tamamo no Mae from Fate Grand Order. This one's going to cost you 15,000 yen. And I remember back in the day, whenever this released, I don't remember the year, but this was a bit of a beloved figure. A lot of people like this one. And while I don't know its reputation anymore, or if its quality holds up, it has to be in some type of demand still, because they're re-releasing it, right? I think this figure looks great. I love the design of this one, the straw hat specifically. I think it's very fun. I don't think the wet t-shirt ever looked that great on her. I think they could have done that better, but as you could see, you could just take it off completely. And I also like how the inflatable ring hangs off of her tail. I think that's a cute design aspect of the figure. But yeah, a great one for sure, assuming the quality is still up to par. But Kotobukiya has always been good, so you should be in good hands. Mob Psycho 100's Reagan from Union Creative is getting a re-release, 11,700 yen. Pretty damn cheap. Now, this is not as exciting as it could have been, because now there's 2 additional figures of him on the market. Though, truthfully, I don't really feel like there is a perfect figure of Reagan yet. I think this one is probably my favorite, like, proportionally, but I do think his face looks a little bit off. I don't have the Nendoroid in front of me, but I always thought that the Pop-Up Parade looked a little bit stubby. I don't know. Maybe his face is like a little bit more accurate. But yeah, they're also making a Mob figure. Now this one's not a re-release. This is a new figure, in fact. He also comes with Dimple, which is appreciated. I don't know why they painted him like this with like the clear translucent plastic, but I think matte would have looked a little bit better. I think the Nendoroid does that. It's not like you ever see through him in the show, so I don't know. I don't really like the execution of that, but it's a small complaint. Same price, and he actually comes with a separate head, which makes it look like he's pretty much gone into like 100%. His hair's flowing up, his face looks more serious, right? And I actually think it fits the pose like much better. And also the fact that his outfit is so wrinkly, right? And that's fine with this, but when he's just standing there and smiling, where are the original images? Hold on. When he's just looking like this, I feel like it doesn't make sense for it to be so creased. I don't know, maybe that's just me. But if they're trying to like convince me that he's using his like psychokinesis abilities and like the wind is starting to like flow around him, right? It doesn't really add up to me when he's just kind of like smiling and extending his hand, but you might not see that issue. But Mob is also a character that got a pop-up parade. I don't remember if I had a problem with it. Let me just look it up really quick. I don't know. I mean, there's a bit of like a twinkle in his eye. I didn't remember that. So that makes it a little bit different on its own. I don't think the proportions look as weird as Reagan, right? So that's fine. He's also extending his hand out a little bit more convincing in this like nice boy style that he's in. But yeah, hey, you got some options now. It's just nice to get some mob figures in general, because this is like one of the best shows ever, and I'm gonna stand by that. But everybody likes Mob Psycho 100. If you don't, you're crazy, because this shit is like peak. Let's talk about Bridget next, alright? So, Q put up their figure for 24,000 yen, which I feel like is a little high considering the competition right now. There's already a couple on the market for around that price, and I feel like they're doing more with the character. Now, I don't think that's outrageously expensive considering most Guilty Gear characters have rather elaborate outfits, and their designs are pretty standout. And as far as capturing Bridget goes, I think Q nailed it. Her face looks perfect. I absolutely adore how she looks here, but I just don't think this figure is super exciting. It's a great pose, right? And they definitely nailed the outfit. I think the shading all throughout it looks spot on. It's a really nice looking piece, but I just don't need it because I have the Spirit Tail one on pre-order, and I kind of like the Broccoli one better as well. Though I do think her face looks more accurate here than on the Broccoli version, and also the colors too. But I just think that having the yo-yo spin around her and Roger being incorporated into that other figure is just more exciting, right? This is the downside of having 20 figures of Bridget all come out around the same time. It's just too much, right? But in a bubble, I think it's perfect. What's not perfect, on the other hand, is Eastream's version. Shibuya Scramble is putting out their Bridget for 29,000 yen, which I think is the most expensive Bridget right now. And if you ask me, I think it's the worst one. This just does not look like Bridget. Like, the face is completely off to me. And the lack of shading in her hair is very apparent. I kind of hate this figure. Her skin also looks very pale, like on her face and on her fingers, but then her thighs look kind of fine. Like, I don't get what's going on. They also look gigantic, the thighs on Bridget here. And I don't know, this is gonna sound really stupid, but when I was like opening this page, I saw this image. I legit thought she was getting like pantsed or something. Like, I thought I was looking at Bridget's ass for a second just because of the crease down here. That's not what's happening, but I think just weird photo. I don't know, just because like, I guess the top that she's wearing is such a similar color to her skin at this point on this figure that I got mind gamed. But yeah, I don't know. The base is kind of cool being the giant yo-yo, and it does look good, but it's just, I think this is an easy pass. Like, I don't really see the appeal in this one. Like, even if I can criticize Q for going with a simpler pose, it still looks exactly like Bridget, so it has plenty of merit to pre-order it or buy it, right? I guess since we're talking about Eastream and Shibuya Scramble, might as well continue that, right? Here we have Cheryl Gnome Tsukuyomi version, as well as Ranka Lee Amaterasu version. Both are very expensive at 38,500 yen, but unfortunately I don't think either look as great as they could be. And ultimately, it just comes down to the colors, because I don't think there's really a problem with the sculpt. I think turning both of them into goddesses is a great idea, and it just lends itself to making a very beautiful figure. But instead of being awestruck at just like their divine nature, I'm a little dumbfounded at just like the way they painted them, and even just like the colors they've chosen. I think the best part of the colors, in my opinion, are the sashes that go around them. They both have like this rainbow effect, which is rather pretty, but man, some pieces of it are just not great. Like the base, I think, is my least favorite part on both of them, but I think I dislike it more on Ranka Lee. It is so brightly orange, and while I do like vibrant colors, I think it clashes completely. I do think the little birds and the wheat are cute. They're both like completely gold, which looks good. But then like the sun behind her is also supposed to be gold, yet these images don't make it look that good at all. It almost looks like they're made of cardboard, honestly. I hope they look way better in person. Sometimes Eastream or Shibuya Scramble don't really put in their A game, or they're getting worse. I don't know. Sometimes their figures are fantastic, and other times I feel like they could have tried way harder, yet they're going to charge so much. Since Good Small Company is putting out those parade-style figures, I forget the name of them exactly, but they're both wonderful. And I think if you're not like crazy about the goddess angle, you should just get those instead because they're a little bit cheaper and they're more vibrant, they're more fun. The idea is more fully realized, like they actually brought them to life correctly, whereas I feel like they missed a couple of steps here. So yeah, unfortunately, not the best Ronka Lee or Cheryl Gnome figure I've personally seen. Though I do love the frog. I think I should have made a note of that. But that's not worth like $300, as much as I love the fact that the frog is kind of freaking out in her hand. I just like frogs. I don't know what to say. I mentioned earlier in the video we had another Yuji figure to talk about. Well, here it is, made by Shibuya Scramble. This one is going to cost you 34,000 yen. It's a bit of a shame we've never seen a nice price from this specific line from Eastream ever again since the Gojo figure. But what can you do? He's going to cost 10,000 more than that S-Fire figure. And it's hard to really say that this is definitely worth that much more money. I do feel like it looks a little bit better in some aspects. While he doesn't have that like really like dark shading applied to his outfit, I do feel like it, I don't know, makes more sense. Like the material just like not being as like super glossy and shiny feels a little bit more realistic here. And I do think his face looks slightly better, a little bit more accurate. Still not an expression I love, but the scowl, the furrowed brow, it works. He definitely feels pretty pissed off here. And the energy of him like getting ready to swing his fist is pretty rad. I don't think the energy like effects particularly looks that great. I do like the black smears attached to the blue flame, but it almost feels like it's not bright enough. Maybe if there was a little like white mixed into the plastic, it would look a little bit better. But that's just my opinion. Unfortunately, what this figure lacks that the S-Fire figure did have is a little bit more like, I guess, environmental storytelling. Like, he's leaping and he's creating like all of these dust clouds, but they completely cover the entire base to the point where it's all dust clouds for the most part. Like, there is a dirt patch or maybe rocks underneath, but you don't really get a sense of the location with this one. So if you like dust clouds, it's for you. And to be fair, these are great looking dust clouds, but I think it's a little excessive when you can't really get heads or tails of what like the rest of the environment looks like. We're also getting Megumi from Shibuya Scramble, and he comes with Nue, which I think is pretty cool. It's actually emerging from the ground in this like goopy shadow trail. It's starting at Megumi's feet actually, and then it goes all the way up, and if you look at the backside of Nue, you can see that the tail feathers are like blackened a bit, just to kind of simulate that he's materializing, or it's materializing. I think all of that is super cool. Don't love the electricity pieces. I feel like those could have been a little bit more of a, like, I don't know, visual treat. Not too much of like a spectacle here. They look a little bit tacked on if you ask me. Kind of similar to that Deku figure that I complain about in some other pre-order roundup. It just seems like these companies don't have the best hold on electricity pieces for some reason. Usually the flames look good, but not so much the sparks. You could even tell that they're trying to compensate for that in some of these photos. Personally, if you ask me, I wish we got more Megumi figures where he was a bit more unhinged and kind of crazy looking, like in that one scene, you know the one I'm talking about. Definitely a highlight of the anime so far for me, but I do think, you know, when you compare it to the Yuji figures, this does look fairly accurate. The cool and calm demeanor, I don't really have a problem with it. And the shading on like the outfit is up to par with like the other figures that they've made. So I think there's less to complain about with this one. I do think it came through. It's just really freaking expensive, so might be a hard sell. And then we had this one, the Prisma Wing Yudo Camp Nadeshiko and Rin figure for 44,400 yen. I don't think that price is crazy considering there's two characters and a scooter. Granted, it's very expensive and it could cost a little bit less, but it's a bit justified here, so I really don't have a problem with the price. I have a problem with the figure. I don't think it looks very good. I think Alter's scooter figure of Rin just kind of outclasses this despite the price. But even forgetting that, right, I think Nadeshiko looks genuinely horrifying on this figure. It just is really off-putting the way they did like her face. Like, I don't know what it is. And the more I look at this figure, the less I'm impressed with the paint job. It almost looks like a resin where they don't really like shade it too much. Like, both of them have really flat looking hair, but it also looks like they're not finished because it's a bit shiny as well, like with a model kit when you don't give it a top coat. And I could say the same thing about the poncho that Nadeshiko's wearing. Like, why is it so shiny looking? I feel like of all the clothing that they're wearing, that should not be one of the shinier pieces. It just doesn't really make sense to me. But really, it's just like the shadows being cast on her face, and her eyes are so big, and it's just, I don't know, like the fact that they went with like the flat mouth where there's no definition or depth to it. I think Nadeshiko looks really bad and Rin looks fine. But for 44,000 yen, I would want them to look as good as possible. But I do feel like outside of the grass, I like the fact that this figure has a grass base. I feel like they really kind of just failed on this one. Maybe that's a little too harsh to say, but I feel like this series has so many good figures, and this just isn't one of them. It's a great idea. I love that they've paired these two together. It's a really cute concept, and I think they just didn't go far enough with it. Unless like their promotional photos are not what the figure is going to look like, I would say not really worth it. But I do wonder what other people think about this one, because I've only seen a little bit of Eurocamp. Like, of all the places to add some like weathering and detail, you picked the sole of her shoe. I don't know, man. Like the focus points of this figure are strange to me. But that's really all I have to say. I do wonder if anybody in the comments section would like to leave me a comment on why this is epic. I would love to find out. But for me, I just really cannot get over the fact that Nadeshiko looks a little bit eerie here. And that's a weird thing to say. Like, why would Nadeshiko ever look eerie on a figure? Azur Lane's Enterprise Windcatcher version. This is the newest race queen from Apex, following Baltimore. This one is going to cost you 24,540 yen, which is a bit of an increase. I think Baltimore was closer to 20,000. But you know what? That Baltimore figure is very sought after now. And the reason for that is because she's a cast-off. They didn't mention that anywhere in the pre-order phase, but it turns out you could take the top off in some fashion. I'm not sure if it's a forced cast off or not, but they did sculpt the goods, which means that people really want that figure now. And I find that so interesting that, like, yeah, it was a popular figure, but the moment that people found out that that figure had some nudity, it just went, man. I don't even know if you could buy that figure anywhere anymore. It's almost like playing the speculative market, which I'm not the biggest fan of. I think people know that those figures typically do very well on the aftermarket, so buy now, worry about it later. But, you know, that's just what happens. So I think they'll re-release it at some point, but can't say for sure. But in the meantime, we got Enterprise. Now, I don't think this figure really hits the same strides. It's very attractive, don't get me wrong, but that Baltimore figure really had it all. The outfit was kind of outrageous, but it was very sexy. And the fact that she was leaning on these like giant tires and she was holding like that gigantic flag really just made it appealing from all angles. I mean, her like dress is like barely covering anything, and it's very apparent as you circle the figure, especially from the back. And I do really like the fact that she's wearing this like gigantic coat. And maybe it's not gigantic, but it's big and it's billowing behind her, and it looks great. You could even take it off if you don't like it, and then it kind of makes her look a little bit more slender and curvy, so there is that. I mean, it's not like every figure could have the same base. Like, you can't just give Enterprise the tires and the flags again, otherwise it would be a little repetitive, but I don't know, I feel like this setup just isn't as good. I will say that I like the crescent shape of her ponytail. I think that does catch the eye. And she's still very attractive, and I think her face looks fantastic too. Though I think it would be really fucked up if they gave Baltimore a cast-off option, made people believe that Enterprise would have one, and then she didn't. So, I don't know. But then again, it was a forced cast-off, kinda, and this one seems like it might be harder to take apart. So, user discretion is advised. Also from Apex and also from Azur Lane, we have the Amagi-chan 1/7 scale for 22,400 yen. Now, this figure doesn't seem to be very tall. In fact, it is 13 centimeters tall, but it looks to be rather wide and maybe even pretty deep because of her gigantic foxtails. But yeah, her kimono is also covering like all of the floorboards. There's a bunch of like manjus running around, which is very cute. They're all doing their own thing. She's got some like sweets down there. I'm not exactly sure what they're supposed to be. They kind of remind me of like Italian cookies, but I know they're not that. They can't be that. That makes no sense. And then there's also like some like flowers down here, which is rather pretty. Even some like really tiny petals. I don't know. I would assume they're like attached to the floorboards, but who knows for sure. And also these like gigantic bells look great attached to the what are they called? The shime nawa ropes. I think that's what they're called. I love those. I love those on like any figure. I think the Miku also had them, but they're like gigantic here. Honestly, pretty nice looking. Her hair looks really fucking good to me. Maybe some other images will paint a better picture. It does look a little bit translucent at the tips, but I don't know, man. There's like enough detail in the in like the strands that they just they look kind of fantastic to me. What this figure revealed with the pre-order is that she comes with a smiling faceplate. And when I say smiling, I mean this is like the happiest fucking day of her life. She's so blissful. It just feels like it fits the figure better as well, though I might be wrong on that because I'm not familiar with the character. But to just have the little birds running around while she's happy makes more sense than when she's like kind of sad or almost like dead in the eyes. Like, I don't know. I do think the eyes look good, but maybe just not like for this setup for me. So I think Apex did a great job here. Not a figure I'm really planning to pick up, but I could appreciate the craftsmanship. Rebos put up their Ilulu figure, a 1/6 scale for just about 25,000 yen. Now, unfortunately, I don't think this looks like a Lulu at all, whether it be the anime or the manga's art style, but everything else I think they handled really well. The fact that they're using her tail as like a stand, or like even the base itself, it's a little hard to say. Pretty ingenious if you ask me. Very natural way to place her in the air levitating. I think it's pretty smart. The other thing I really like is just the way they shaded the inside of the cloak. I can't say the outside because you could barely see it in these photos, but I really like how they painted this figure. Her hair too, the gradation of the twin tails, really nice stuff. She's also asserting dominance with the way she's literally groping herself, and I like that she has the dragon hands. Just the fact that I guess this figure really does lean into like the first appearance of her, where, you know, most of the show, at least from season 2, you really don't see her in this form, so I kind of like that they went with this angle for this figure, but it's just a matter of I don't really think this looks like a Lulu. Also, I like that she has the doll. I think that's cute. Yeah, I don't know. If you could get past the face, I don't think this is too unreasonable considering how like big the cloak is, how long her tail is, and the paint looks great like all throughout the figure. Another lewd one for you. This is the 12th Villager Lelunia, a 1/6 scale from Vertex. This one's going to cost you 28,000 yen, which is pretty damn expensive, but you could spend even more than that for the exclusive version for 33,000 yen. And if you like this design, you like this figure, I think you should do that. So normally the figure, you know, she has her sword and shield out. She's looking pretty happy about it. She's blushing, barely wearing anything right. Very sexy looking character, but the exclusive version gives her a more flustered faceplate, and her sword and shield are busted up. I really like how both of these pieces look, and the expression too are all phenomenal. In fact, I kind of like this. I don't think I'm gonna buy it, but I think they've done a great job with like the translucent pieces of her, I guess we'll call it a cape, and like her waist cloth. I don't know the terminology here. The definition of like her stomach looks amazing, and Vertex is pretty good at sculpting a chest, right? But I actually realized that this comes with some secret parts that they don't talk about on here, but I think they mentioned it on Twitter. Now, with the standard release, you get these two, and the limited edition will have these broken looking pieces, and if you haven't put it together yet, this is the bikini armor top. So, it's gonna have some nudity to it, which, I mean, I'm pretty sure that's the point of this line, but just in case you didn't know, gonna have some nipple, right? Yeah, I think it looks good. I really do. I don't have any of the other elf girls in this line. I don't know if this is the one to start. She looks really tall. I don't know if that's actually the case. Also, I'll give you the butt shot right there because pretty damn good butt sculpt. She is 250 millimeters. That seems pretty normal, right? But I don't know how that compares to the other girls in the line because they're all very different. They're all done by like different artists. I think that's the point of the line. So a lot of variety here, and I think it's okay to only like one or two just because they're so stylistically different. but it probably makes for one hell of a display if you have all of them. I don't know if I'm going to be tempted down the line. I feel like I'm easily persuaded, but the 33,000 yen price tag plus shipping is kind of helping me not want to deal with it, but I would recommend it. You know what, if you buy some of these more saucy figures, this one definitely gets my recommendation. I kind of think it's perfect at what it's doing. Alright, let's talk about Alter next. They actually had 4 figures this month, which is quite a lot for them. Usually they're like 2, and then they're done, or none sometimes. But here we have the new Rei AmiAmi long hair version from them, 22,780 yen. And normally I would say for a figure like this, a little bit too high, but her hair sculpt is absolutely beautiful, from the color to the strands of hair themselves, all individually sculpted, flowing in a very pretty way. Absolutely gorgeous, right? And it's Alter, right? Everything about the paint job on this figure, the sculpts, they're gonna be perfect, so I think you're in good hands. And it's another Rei figure where she comes with that doll, which I'm definitely getting tired of seeing, but you can actually remove it, but at that point, she's holding nothing. Like, she doesn't have any swappable arms, which I think they should have done if they were going to let you remove the baby doll. I think I said this last time, but I like that it actually looks like it's floating, like there's low gravity, and that does play into the pose itself because she is floating, so it's all rather thought out, right? And as a result, I do kind of like this one a little bit more than Good Smile Company's figure. I think you're in good hands either way. I forget the price of that one. They're probably pretty similarly priced, but I guess because this one is slightly more inventive, I'm gonna say this one is my preferred pick, but it doesn't matter. You're in good hands. Here we have Uma Musume's Rice Shower, a 1/7 scale for just about 20,700 yen. Keep in mind that most Alter figures can be found for slightly cheaper prices, like 1,000 yen or so at other retailers. AmiAmi just has the highest price, but it's also the easiest for me to use for this video series. So if you go to like HobbyLink Japan or Hobby Search or CD Japan, usually you'll find them for slightly better deals. And if you want to support the channel, you could use some of my affiliate links down below. I'd appreciate it. But anyway, I've always liked Rice Shower, and I've always liked this figure. There's also the Good Smile Company one on the horizon. It actually just went up for pre-order, but that was in October. So I'm gonna save that one for next time. It's very different. It's a spooky figure, whereas this one's like her traditional look, right? I think both look fantastic, honestly. I think I'm leaning more towards getting this one, if I do, and I feel like I do want to just because she's one of my favorite characters alongside Daiwa Scarlet. She's just so cute, man. I think this figure is absolutely adorable, and I love the colors too, of her dress, of her sleeves, of her tights. Even like her eyes are so bright, that like really lush purple that they went with. I think it looks great. The swoop of her hair is really nice looking as well. They did a great job sculpting this figure. Now, what we did learn with this pre-order is that she comes with a bonus faceplate. Instead of looking very worried, she looks very happy. I'm not even sure which expression I like more in this instance, but having 2 good options, nothing to complain about. I think it just makes the figure better. So yeah, you know what? I like this little dainty figure. It just comes down to like the outfit, the colors, her hat that covers half of her face, the giant ribbon in the back, the cute little heels, and I think the base looks good too. Normally I don't like these plaque bases, like the big podium things, but I think the color is very nice. It fits her well, and it's not really an eyesore. So I think I'm gonna get it. It also helps that the price tag isn't bad at all. It's not super extravagant or anything, this figure, but I'm more than happy to pay that. At least if I can get it for this price, that's a pretty damn good price. But who knows where the yen will be in, like almost a year from now. Alright, next up is the Azur Lane's Lamalin Listless Lapin version, a 1/6 scale for the exact same price. And this one also comes with a bonus expression that we only just learned about. Now, unfortunately, I don't think it's as good as the default faceplate, but that's mostly because I think the default faceplate, the sleepy expression, is just so much better and very unique for a non-articulated scale figure. It just is something that you don't often see, and I think replacing it takes away the charm of this figure at least a little bit. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with the winking faceplate on its own. It's very cute, looks good, and if it was the only expression on this figure, I still think it would be good. Regardless of if you agree with me on that though, I think Alter has done a good job here. Her twin tails, the braids look excellent. I love the little butterflies that are placed on them. The manju that's somehow like stuck to her hair is very cute. And I kind of like that they just gave her a carrot. It feels a little random considering the other figure didn't have it. But you know, that bright orange does bring a little bit of nice color to this figure. Also, I didn't realize that her sleepy faceplate has drool at the mouth. You can't even see that from like the other photos. Also, I don't know what this is. The little heart by her shoes. That seems very easy to lose. What is that? Do they say that somewhere? A heart-shaped cookie. Wow, that's like a really, really small cookie. All right. Well, don't lose it. And the last figure from Alter this month, of course, is the Toho Project Romelia Scarlet 1/8 scale figure. Now, it's very expensive, 35,000 yen. I don't think a lot of people like that. But personally, I'm very happy that she's not more money than Flandre was, considering there was about a year's gap between the two figures, or maybe even longer than that. It's a little hard to say. But I was totally expecting this to cost more, so I'll count my blessings where I can. I do think these figures are a little bit too much. I think they should have capped off at 30, considering their size. But, I mean, that Flandre figure is like a 10 out of 10, like genuinely so. And I gotta say, if the final product looks as good as these photos do, and it likely will, then I think I'm gonna prefer this figure more than Flandre. I don't even know how that's possible, and I think it's due to the colors, which is very surprising to me. But the way they shaded her hair and the red glossy finish of her wings are so eye-catching. I just cannot stop looking at this figure. Even the back of the wings look fucking excellent, and the spectrum of colors on the stained glass, I think is a bit more varied, right? But also, I just like this color combination a little bit more. Also, not only does the color of her hair look excellent, but the sculpt is like top-notch too. I don't think it's super uncommon for a figure to have a really nice hair sculpt, but I do think it's a little bit more rare for a shorter hair character to have standout hair sculpts like this, right? Like the strands, the way it's flowing, it's absolutely like amazing. I'm really impressed with like the entire head sculpt. The hat's cute too, her eyes are really bright. I'm definitely impressed. And I do like the slight change to her outfit that they've made. I don't think it deviates too far, and I feel like it's totally fitting as well. So whoever designed this figure, I think did an excellent job. Now, just like Flandre, she has some optional parts. It's in the hands. She could do this like really dainty pose. I don't know what you would call this. I don't know. It's cute. But when I get this figure, I think I'm going to be displaying her with the spear, which looks so nice, so cool looking. Pretty sure it has a metallic finish to it. A little hard to tell in these photos, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. She has her other hand by her face this time, acting a little haughty. I guess she definitely is a bit of a smug character, acting superior and whatnot, so totally fitting. Both poses are, but unlike Flandre, where the weapon wasn't like super impressive to look at, I feel like you've got to go with the spear in this instance. So yeah, this is likely going to be another 10 out of 10 for me. Can't wait to talk about it in a year, or less than that. Honestly, that's actually not that far away at this point. So hopefully it doesn't get delayed too much, and then I'll make a review on it. Cannot fucking wait. Alright, so I think at this point I've done a lot of rambling. This video feels very long already, so while we have about like 15 so or more to go, I think I'm gonna rapid fire a couple of these, or at least go through them quicker, right? So next up we have Maida Shiori-chan from Union Creative, 18,000 yen. A cute one. I don't think there's a scale here, but she is 180 millimeters, and she's kneeling down, so she shouldn't be like super small or anything. I think she's pretty cute. I like the bikini and hoodie combo, and how they've accessorized the sun hat and the shoes with some sunflowers. Honestly pretty appealing, but it is Union Creative. Next up, we got the Idolmaster Shiny Colors, February, Madoka Higuchi 1/7 scale, 21,580 yen. I get that she's holding a Big Bear plushie. I like the cute ribbon tied to it. It's even really nicely shaded, but feels a little bit too much for what this is. A cute outfit, a cute accessory, right? I like that her base is also the streets, because I think she's on a date, so she's out and about, but yeah, I think this one's gonna have a hard time selling for that price. Momoko Art Collection Arietta Bunny-chan. This is from Nocturnus and is going to cost you 24,550 yen. This is also a cast-off, and a 1/7 scale. Though I wish she was a 1/6 scale, because at that size, I think this price would have been perfect, but they're not too far off. I believe she's supposed to be working at some kind of bar, at least that's what these photos imply, with the trinks in the back and the stools up front. So that kind of explains her outfit, how it's a bit of a deviation from the typical bunny suit. But I think it's a cute look. I like the color of it. I think she's got a really cute face. Her hair looks pretty nice. And the way the cast off works, it's just like the flaps kind of come down. So yeah, I think this figure is pretty good. But we're also getting a figure of Kamaguse-chan for 19,600 yen. This one is actually a 1/6 scale, and the price is pretty damn good, but unfortunately no cast-off option at all. Instead, there is a completely separate release where she's just naked. I think she comes with the skirt, but not the school uniform top. So you kind of got to choose which one you like more. And there's definitely pros and cons to that, right? Ultimately, I think it makes more sense to have both options in one package. But then, you know, you don't have to worry about like seam lines and messy pieces or breaking things. So I think there's benefits to doing it this way, but not everybody is going to see it that way, right? Now, as for this figure, I think it's pretty good. You know, I got a weakness to succubus characters. Her wings don't look that great, but the fact that she's like biting on her tail, why don't we get that more often, right? I think that shit's cute. And I think her hair looks really nice too, and her eye decals are pretty damn unique as well. I think it's pretty nice, but I'm not going to be picking it up because I don't really collect stuff like this too often. If I don't pick up that elf girl with the sword and shield, which I think is way nicer, then I don't see why I would pick this up. But I do like it, and it's way more affordable. So, there you go. Rina illustration by Saitom, a 1/6 scale figure from SkyTube for 33,000 yen. Now, you know I love me some Saitom. Most of his designs definitely hit, and this one does too. But 33,000 is a little bit too much for me. Though I do love the fact that she's wearing the drip jacket and that her shoes are like Hot Wheels on fire. They're just so tacky. I love it. But I actually don't think SkyTube did that good of a job on this figure. Mostly just like the outfit itself. I feel like they're really lacking in like shading in both the jacket and the top. I think the apron looks okay. The fact that she's wearing fishnets is very attractive. Her hair looks all right. I don't think her face looks like perfect for Saitom, but it looks fine. And this figure is also a cast-off, both the top and the bottom, so it has plenty of appeal in that regard. But yeah, I don't know, like I do like the design enough, but nowhere near enough to spend that much money. So, a pass from me, but I think it's charming enough to want it. I just hope it like drops in price. Millium Nava Dragonoid version from Q's Q, 31,600 yen, a very expensive figure. And they're doing some stuff with the design, right? She's got the dragon wings, there's the flame base, her sword is gigantic, not to mention her face looks fantastic, her hair does too, but man, that's a lot of money. Like, I trust Q's Q with my life at this point. I know this will look good, but man, is it really expensive. It's really refreshing to get a Millium Nava figure in this design too, just because we really don't, even though I think one was just announced at this point, or went up for pre-order, but that doesn't matter. Most of them don't look like this is what I'm trying to say. So I like that they're doing it. I think this will bin, unfortunately, or fortunately, you know what? If they're gonna ask too much, then figures gotta drop in price. But it does look excellent. I just feel like, man, way too much. Single shipment means that this is going to be a pain in the ass. You can't even like, you know, combine it with other figures that you've pre-ordered that month. So it's just like a headache. This figure seems like it's going to have a rough time, but it looks good. Looks great even. I don't want to downplay it. All right, next up is Tales of Destiny Leon Magnus, a 1/7 scale figure by Rebos for just about 25,000 yen. Now, unfortunately, this is one of the few Tales games I never got around to trying, so I don't know this guy. Probably not something I'm going to pick up, but I like the fact that they're making more Tales of figures. It doesn't really matter at this point who they're making. I just like that it happens. I do think this figure looks pretty cool. Not the biggest fan of the colors personally. I think the pink and the blue, not my favorite color combination, though I think the cape looks awesome, how like upwardly flowing it is. It's very high up. It's like way higher than his head. The crescent of his attack, I'm not sure what move he's using, but I think that looks good too. The couple of rocks attached to it Not too much of a commitment there, but it's enough just to make it look like he's actually smacking the ground, right? And I think just having him wield both the sword and the dagger at the same time, I'm not sure if that's like primarily how he fights, but it just makes for a really dynamic pose. I think this really came together well. I hope Rebos delivers on this one. I want to see more figures from them for Tails if this is a good figure in the end, but I'll wait and see, right? Because I don't know this guy, I'm not going to pre-order it, but I do like it a lot. Persona 4 The Golden's Izanagi version 2 by Mega House, a 28,380 yen figure. Quite a price increase from the version 1, but that figure is ancient at this point, and Mega House just makes expensive figures. What can you do? Now, a while ago, I mentioned that I started Persona 5. I actually beat it at this point. Liked it a lot. I think Persona 3 is a little bit better. Don't kill me, all right? Just a preference, and I got my nostalgia for it, so kind of hard to beat that. Usually the one you start with is your favorite, but I'm saying all that because I actually never played Persona 4 either, so I don't really know anything about this guy, but I think this figure is awesome. I'm going to get around to that game eventually, but time and place, right? Like, I did try it a long time ago, but I wasn't in the right mindset. I'm sure I would like it considering I like 3 and 5 at this point, but long-ass game. So one day. See, this is a problem though, because I don't know what type of energy is supposed to be down here. Is it electricity? That would be my guess. I think it looks awesome regardless of the element. The fact that he's like swinging through it is really cool too. It looks like a figure that's going to be pretty pricey to ship too. It just looks big to me, very wide. But we'll have to wait and see on that one. Hopefully that's not the case. But yeah, very cool. I like a lot of their figures, so I hope they keep making this line, but they seem a little limited on it. Here we have a rather different type of Kurumi Togisaki figure from Data Live, the black Chinese dress version from Good Show, 21,300 yen for a 1/7 scale, and a rather elaborate base, a rather pretty one if you ask me, is a really good deal. Unfortunately, I don't know this company. I don't know if they have other figures on here because you can't click it, so you got to do some research on this one. Now, I do think calling it a black dress seems wrong. Like, it's white on the front and red on the back. In fact, there's less black on this figure than the other colors, so I don't know. Unless you count the leggings, but I don't. They're more of a brown if you ask me, but whatever. Nitpick. Now, the first time I saw her, I didn't really feel like it looked like Kurumi, though I do feel like these newer photos kind of make me want to take that back a little bit. It's not a perfect Kurumi figure in terms of the art style, but it definitely does look like her, so one of my only complaints is kind of gone now. So yeah, I think the base on this figure is definitely the main attraction. Like, don't get me wrong, Kurumi looks great, but I think the base looks even better. You got this beautiful artwork in the back, you got the birds flying into the frame, this like really nice looking plant where she's like resting on the leaves. It's like drooping down into the water very gently, causing the water to ripple a little bit. Absolutely beautiful. They did a fantastic job here. I don't even know how they can make it better, except for these photos, which look so good that it's almost offensive, because you're not gonna get a figure that looks like this. But hey, you could totally replicate it if you buy all of these extra accessories somehow. I don't know how you go about that. But yeah, some great photography work there for sure. This is one of the few Kurumi figures that have impressed me lately. And this is like a drastic like change, a departure for what her figures typically look like. And some would say it goes too far, but I wouldn't. It's refreshing, right? I'm not sure what she's holding on to. It might just be like a translucent sash that like goes all the way into the water down here. I guess it looks all right plastic-wise, but I do like how it travels all throughout the leaves and into the water down here, and kind of like around her body too. So yeah, great one. I think this figure's great. From Honkai Impact 3rd, we are getting the Durandal Stellar Promise version from MiHoYo. This one is going to cost 24,000 yen. This almost looked like a wedding dress figure to me. I think it's more of like a formal party kind of dress. Either way, very pretty dress. I love the colors on it. Very soft on the eyes, lots of light colors, but there's some darker blues and some gold mixed in for the contrast. I gotta say, really like the staircase. I'm not exactly sure if it's supposed to be like marble or simulating like glass with like some translucent plastic, but it looks really good. I don't know why I'm focusing on the staircase, but I really like it. Even these pillars look fantastic. Very nicely done base, despite how like pretty simplistic it is at the end of the day. But Yeah, I think this is a rather gorgeous piece overall. Lots of like nice flowers throughout the design too, kind of like tied to the staircase. These like stars too. I really like stars like this on figures. We don't get them super often, but when we do, I'm there to appreciate it. Even her hair looks great as well. Very soft in its appearance. So yeah, a stunner for sure. All right, we're almost done, but next up we have the Azur Lane's Emil Burton swimsuit skin, a 1/4 scale figure from Design Coco for 38,280 yen. So this is the exact same price as any typical bunny figure, yet there's so much more going on. And also the prototype just looks better. Now I don't know, right? I have no idea if this will turn out good. We kind of know the standard quality for a freeing figure, but I don't know if Design Coco has made many 1/4 scales. But this looks amazing. I really like this one. For a beach figure too, she comes with a lot of stuff. And at this size, it's pretty damn impressive. A lot of inflatables. You got the rings, you got the torpedoes. They look pretty realistic too. Like I can't help but be impressed with those inflatables. She also has this like really velvety looking pillow at the beach. I mean, the water's right there. That just seems like a disaster waiting to happen. But the base too. Base looks nice. She's got her name written in the sand. That's a nice touch. The waves look great. And then she's got a really cute face, and her swimsuit is like both cute and sexy at the same time. It's very frilly, it's got a bunch of like ribbons on it, and even the polka dot pattern is very cute. But then the way it's cut is like super revealing. So it's kind of like going against itself. It's pretty interesting, and I like it quite a bit. So yeah, I really hope they deliver on this one. This looks quite pretty, and quite hot at the same time, and quite cute at the same time. I don't know, it's got it all. They've done a good job. Or I guess like the designers of Azur Lane did a good job. And then Design Coco did a good job bringing it to life. So yeah, I at least want to see how it turns out, because there's not a single thing about this swimsuit figure I dislike. This is a rather like stunning swimsuit figure. And last up, from Blue Archive, we've got Wakamo, a 1/7 scale by Neon Max, and this one's going to cost you 25,000 yen. Now I pray that Neon Max can actually deliver with this figure, because this design should not go to waste. This just looks incredible and would make such a perfect figure. But I don't know if I trust Neon Max, because I've complained about them in the past. Now, I might have jumped the gun because of some poor photos, but I did do a little bit of research. I found this photo here, and I can't help but feel that her hair looks really bad. Does it not look bad? Like, I think there's just like no shading, and it looks very shiny. But again, this might be a bad photo, so we don't know yet. But from the design, and from most of the pre-order photos, looks incredible. I really like that she comes with 3 different ways to display her face. I didn't want to say 3 face plates, because one is a mask, but then you could take the mask off if I could find a good photo of it. There's a couple, hold on. Honestly, I guess this photo is good enough. Her eyes look amazing. I really do like the decal, but you also get heart eyes, which that's kind of good. I don't know which one I like more now, because I feel like if you buy the figure, you use the mask. But I can't deny my like of heart eyes. Super cute. I gotta say, this figure is a little reminiscent of Bounty Hunter Yoko, which I think a lot of people are aware of. That figure is a grail to most people. It's very expensive on the aftermarket, and I don't know how Alter never revisited that figure. How did they not re-release it? I'll never understand. But it's really just the pose, right? She's holding the rifle in the exact same way. Everything else is completely different, but it's a cool stance, right? Makes for a cool pose, makes for a cool figure. It's why this one works. I mean, there's a lot of other reasons why it works. The fox mask and the short kimono and the one ripped stocking, which unfortunately is kind of just like painted on there. But, you know, I think that would be pretty difficult to actually use real material and then like rip the holes in and make sure that it doesn't get damaged over time. So it's probably the smarter idea not to use actual fishnets, but I kind of want to see what that would look like, you know? But whatever. It's really nice. It's just such a good design. And like I said earlier, I really hope Neon Max delivers on this one, because if they do, I think this would get pretty expensive on the aftermarket, right? So it's a tough call. Do you just go for it now? Do you wait it out? I don't know. Blue Archive figures do typically go out of stock. I don't know if this character specifically is very popular, but a lot of the figures so far have sold out. So I don't want to tell you guys not to do something. I'm just blabbing right now. It's one guy's opinion, but I did want to talk about it. But either way, I think we're going to stop here. Want to thank you guys for watching. Really appreciate it. I'll be back with another video soon, but until then, leave me a question down below, or I guess just comment on this video. I'm asking a lot this time, so I understand if you only do one, or I guess you don't do any. But either way, appreciate you guys. I'll see you around, and I guess take care. Bye.